have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Belly up to the bar, we've kept you a seat, and it's great to see you back. Blaine is going to be a bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp obviously is quite lighted. Beginning of the show, adjusting some of the levels. You know what? We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, let's see, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All we ask is that you flush the damn toilet. Hey, the urinals are clean though, I can tell you that. Just did it. Jiggle the damn handle on the toilet, though. Put the lid down for the ladies, if you would, please. Don't forget to tip your waitress. So tonight, in the saloon, here's what it is. Besides a funky and low-down feeling, we have the underground professor, Michael Jones, going to be at the top of the hour when he calls in. We're going to talk about the Constitution and various things Constitution We're going to talk about the Bill of Rights, and that's Dr. Jones' shindig here in the saloon. He is a constitutional professor, knows about all things like that. You know, I think let's do this. Let's turn up the volume just a bit. Oops. Okay, there we go. I like that better. In any event, I started off thinking that I was going to call this the Insanity edition of the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. By the way, it's Thursday, the year of our Lord, July 27th, 2017. So I initially thought that I was going to call this the Insanity Edition, but then I thought with all the crazy shite that's going on these days, I thought, hey, why not? Because that's pretty much what all of this is. It's a big old dumpster fire. So I thought, hey, call it the Dumpster Fire Edition, because all the things that have occurred, Jersey Joe was talking about some things that I'm going to address a little bit later after the professor calls in. And again, it's one of those things, I do this every day, every Tuesday and Thursday. And at the beginning of the day, maybe this is how strange I am. Oh, okay, I'm strange, I know it. I try to figure out early on what my topics are going to be. So it's, you know, if there's one thing I found out from Tammy Jackson and a lot of other people, I found out, you know, it is in fact all about, strange, I know it. All about, I try to figure out early on what my topics are going to be. So it's, you know, if there's one thing I found out from Tammy Jackson and a lot of other people, wow. That was a little bit bizarre. Okay, that's what happens when you don't turn the Spreaker thing off at the top of the chat room. Hey, speaking of chat, in the chat room, we have Mike. So, Mike, thanks for being in chat. And we also have Dave Milner. So, Dave, I want to say thank you for being in chat as well. And, of course, live on the line. He just called in, and it's wonderful to hear because, my God, I gave you props. It is, in fact, Michael Jones, the Underground Professor. And I have to say, good evening, sir. It's just after 10 o'clock your time, Central. So, again, thanks for staying up late here in the saloon, Dr. Jones. It's absolutely wonderful. Okay, what'd you do today? Oh, hey, if I'm not mistaken, you have pugs, right? You have a bunch of pugs. Oh, okay. Rhodesian Ridgeback. I had a genetic mutant Rhodesian Ridgeback who weighed about 110 pounds. He was you could put a saddle on this guy and damn near ride him. And I called him. His name was Bill. Bill. Bill the Ridgeback. So you saw Valerian. I'd be curious to see what you thought of the movie Valerian. So the movie's worth seeing then. Well, that makes two of us. Ew, how do you get super glue over your hand? Or maybe that's a story best not gone into, I don't know. Yeah, that's very sad. In any event, thanks about Valerian. I wanted to go see it anyway, so I'll probably end up going to see it this weekend. My first. Well, the trailers show that it's extremely colorful, extremely vibrant. And I've noticed that there's a big difference between French CG. This movie is made essentially in France, in Canada. And there's a difference in the way it was designed in France and the way that people in the United States would design things. So to me, that was obvious right off the bat because the graphics were all different, very, very different from what you customarily see in the United States. Well, it was directed by Luc Besson, and he directed The Fifth Element. And if you liked the characters in The Fifth Element and the production design values in The Fifth Element, well, you're just going to go crazy over Valerian, according to the trailer that I saw. By the way, I got to tell you one thing. You're probably not on YouTube right now. And YouTube, for whatever reason, when I come on, YouTube gives me the finger and says, hey, BZ, blow us. Because when somebody calls in right now, they're not going to be hearing you on YouTube, and that's very sorry. So I still haven't figured out what the hell is going on with that. But if you're on Spreaker, if you're on shrmedia.com, you can still listen live. Just click the little button up there, and you don't have to see it, but you can listen to it. But for the people who are stalwarts and are watching YouTube or decide that they want to watch YouTube later after the phone conversation, I just want to say, Dr. Jones, I am wearing a driving cap in honor of you because I remember that's what you wore when you were at Freedom Fest last year. So when you're here, I'm wearing a lovely driving cap. So to begin things, I got one question. The United States, sir, is this a democracy? Well, you know, I like you a lot. You're a highly insightful person, but I could swear, Dr. Jones, that just today I heard a politician speaking from D.C. saying that this was a democracy. Now, wouldn't they know? You know, it was funny that you mentioned the Overton window because just as you were starting to say that, I was going to say, you know, and what about the? And then you took that ball and ran with that. What I've said about homosexuality, and you can fill this in with almost any leftist topic now, is we have gone through what I quantify as 3 transitional stages in the United States. The first stage was tolerance. The second stage was acceptance. The third stage was advocacy. So now, in the world of the leftist, if you are not an active advocate for, say, homosexuals, transgenders, the LGBTQ crowd, etc., you're wrong and you're mean and you're evil. Accepting is no longer that's passé. You must transcend acceptance and tolerance. You must now be an active advocate for that, or you're evil. It is. It's so yes. It's yesterday. Yes. Yes. You said something earlier that absolutely 100% resonates. A state, a government powerful enough to give you everything that you want is powerful enough to take everything you have away. When you vest... Yes, but it's absolutely true. Then as today. And the government can theoretically take it away from you if it gives you that at a whim, at a moment's notice, and there isn't a thing that you can do about it. Can you tell us now, you spoke about a democracy, can you tell us specifically, we know that the United States is a constitutionally federated republic. Now, can you specify or define what's a republic? What is a republic? Correct. Yes. Correct. You know, you mentioned the Electoral College. Well, first I want to say, folks, if you just tuned in, we're speaking to Dr. Michael Jones, who is the underground professor. He's a constitutional scholar, knows all about the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, etc., the federal government. But you mentioned the Electoral College. Wait, that's just, if you listen to the people on the left, the Electoral College is terrible. It really is a bad idea. And Dr. Jones, shouldn't that damn Electoral College be just eliminated wholesale? Thank you. Thank you. Correct. Yes. And that's absolutely correct. When you say the Fed or federal, the only thing you think of is Washington D.C. or D.C. That's all you think about. That's absolutely correct. No kidding. Well, Texas is a state in and of itself. I tell you what, I would leave this state so damn quickly and want to, except my wife still works here and still has about 4 or 5 more years to retirement. And that in and of itself grates in my craw. I'd go to Texas in a hot flash if it wasn't so damn hot and if it wasn't so darn humid. Son of a gun. Yeah, that's right. And it's not a dry heat. Yeah. Well, it's hot as hell in Sacramento. Hey, folks, we have been speaking to the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, and I know you got a jam, but can you tell folks where you can be seen, read, etc., and if you have anything that you'd like to say about your upcoming radio show, when might that take place as well, sir? I remember you saying that. Okay, so you're going to be coming back next Tuesday. Is that your first show next Tuesday? Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, sir. You put that out in a tweet or on Facebook or something like that, and I will make sure that I absolutely retweet that. Ken, we look forward to you again next Thursday. Oh, that's right, Central Time. Folks, we have been speaking to Michael Jones, the Underground Professor. We're going to go to a break, and if you would, kindly, please come right back, if you would.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying Catholic, stupid.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.dailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Doing the job the American media maggots won't. Fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Here is, courtesy of the SHR Media Network, the Bloviating Zeppelin.
Wow, that was great. I always enjoy talking to the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, who we just discovered is going to have his own radio show back on next Tuesday night. There we go. Let's kick up the volume. Let's kick up the jams just a little bit there. Hey, you know what? This is really strange. Next Tuesday night, next Tuesday itself, holy crap, it's August 1st already. Number one, where did July go? Number two, where did the rest of the year go? It's like, boom, already, done, gone. Anyway, we were listening to the Underground Professor. He's here every Thursday on the Aftermath. Tonight, it's the dumpster fire episode because I've got so much. It's almost like I don't know where to begin. Well, actually, I do know where to begin. And that would be here because my mother always said, never forget your manners. And so, again, I'd like to say hello to Mike, to Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy who truly is blind, but he's not unpleasant. He's actually quite pleasant. And we have Mamba, one each, and he also says, hey, where the hell did 2017 go? Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. You know, sometimes I look around on Twitter. I look around, like I say, at the beginning of the day, on beginning of Tuesday and Thursday. I agonize over some of the stuff that I'm going to put on the show. What's newsworthy? What's some of the stuff that nobody else is talking about? And then, of course, I have to find audio cuts because I don't want it just to be a chat show where it's nothing but 2 hours of me droning on and on and on. I found a particular cut. I found this on Twitter. And this is, I'd almost go so far as to say this is kind of a quintessential cut as to why we are where we are today. And it's a direct refutation of almost everything that the leftists and the Democrats have been saying, wrapped up in 2 minutes and 19 seconds. It needs, when I heard this, I thought, this is an incredible summary of where we've been for the past year in 2016, for the past 8 years under Obama, and where this is literally a roadmap as to where we need to go for the rest of 2017 and on. So this is Congressman Representative John Ratcliffe. He's a Republican from Texas. And he's speaking in a hearing in which James Comey is essentially sitting there. Ratcliffe says everything in about 2 minutes, and you'll understand once you hear this.
My time's expired, but I have one last question, and I think it's important. At this point, based on everything, do you think that any laws were broken by Hillary Clinton or her lawyers?
Do I think that any laws were broken?
Yeah.
I don't think there's evidence to establish that.
Okay. Well, I think you're making my point when you say there's no evidence to establish that. Maybe not in the way she handled classified information, but with respect to obstruction of justice. And you've got a pen here. I just want to make sure the record's clear about the evidence that you didn't have, that you can't use to prove. So this comes from the FBI's own report.
Wait until you hear this.
It says that the FBI didn't have the Clintons' personal Apple server used for Hillary Clinton work emails. That was never located, so the FBI could never examine it. An Apple MacBook laptop and thumb drive that contained Hillary Clinton's email archives was lost, so the FBI never examined that. 2 BlackBerry devices, provided the FBI didn't have SIM cards or SD data cards. 13 Hillary Clinton personal mobile devices were lost, discarded, or destroyed with a hammer, so the FBI clearly didn't examine those. Various server backups were deleted over time, so the FBI didn't examine that. After the State Department and my colleague Mr. Gowdy here notified Ms. Clinton that her records would be sought by the Benghazi Committee, copies of her emails on the laptops of both of her lawyers, Shara Mills and Harold Mills, and Heather Samuelson, were wiped clean with bleach bits, so the FBI didn't review that.
Do you see a trend coming here? Do you see something of a trend being identified? Holy Mother of God.
After those emails were subpoenaed, Hillary Clinton's email archive was also permanently deleted from the Platte River Network with bleach bit, so the FBI didn't review that. And also after the subpoena, backups of the Platte River server were manually deleted. Now, Director, hopefully that list is substantially accurate because it comes from your own documents. My question to you is this: any one of those in that very, very long list, to me, says obstruction of justice. Collectively, they scream obstruction of justice. And
thank you, thank you, thank you. There's evidence. There's a congressman who's actually wide awake. Oh, but wait, he's not done yet.
To ignore them, I think, really allows not just reasonable prosecutors, but reasonable people to believe that maybe the decision on this was made a long time ago not to prosecute Hillary Clinton.
Did you hear what he just said? The decision was made a long time ago not to prosecute Hillary Clinton. To have... Did you hear this? That's why, again, I say this almost damn near every night. That's why you listen to me. This needs to be heard by everyone in the United States and the American media maggots. Make sure that, just like the cats in a bad cat box, they get in there and they put the cat litter around and they put it over the stinking pile of shit like this that they don't want you to see. They don't want it covered. They don't want it uncovered, rather. And this was said in public. This is an excellent and exquisite soundbite that should have, in a fair and balanced, and I hate to use that phrase, but I will, in a fair and balanced American media, you would have heard that. You probably would have heard that 2, 3, 10, 20, 40 times when it originally came out a month or so ago. Listen to this. Now, Jersey Joe was talking about, okay, what about the DNC server? When you begin to collude, and when you begin to obfuscate, and when you insist that various people go through doors and doors get opened, then you got to expect that certain people are going to walk through these doors. Here's CNN, here's an individual, Sean Duffy, who's speaking to Cuomo, Chris Cuomo on CNN, and talks about the DNC server.
You want to get to the bottom of what Russia was doing and how were they doing it. A key part of that is the DNC and the server, and I think why that's important is the Democrats want to advance this narrative on Russia and Trump. If you're a victim, I was a prosecutor. Victims would come in with all the evidence that they had to help me prosecute their case. This is a very unique and different situation where the...
Listen to this. Listen how he phrases this. It's golden.
The victim won't turn over all the evidence to prosecute the case. And if that happened to me as a prosecutor, that would be a head scratcher for me going, why don't they want to turn this over? And I think those questions should be asked. What are they trying to hide on that server that they don't want the FBI to see?
Specifically the DNC server, the one that was under the auspices of, you remember, Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Again, they want this story to be talked about every single day, and the server could help that. Why won't they turn it over? That's not stink, that's truth.
Yeah, and then Cuomo goes on to equivocate bullshit. So in the meantime, the Trump White House decides that they're going to shift a lot of little moving parts around. And now we've got internal wars going on. And we've got a particular individual in the White House, Anthony Scaramucci. Scaramucci, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me. And I won't do the Galileo part because I can't do a falsetto. I used to in my 20s, but no longer. Now you've got Anthony Scaramucci, who's going on CNN, and now it's all tabs pulled in. It's the Scaramucci versus Reince Priebus wars. And Scaramucci calls in on CNN this morning and apparently doesn't quite know the difference between on the record and off the record. Well, here's a piece from the Washington Examiner. And the headline is, Anthony Scaramucci says Reince Priebus is an effing paranoid schizophrenic and he wants to kill all the leakers. Anthony Scaramucci, the incoming White House communications director, told a reporter with the New Yorker that Reince Priebus, President Trump's chief of staff, is a fucking paranoid schizophrenic. Oh, this is just his first week. What do you think next week we'll have? In a phone call with Ryan Lizza, the reporter Scaramucci accused Priebus of leaking and suggested that he may ask him to resign. Scaramucci also threatened to, quote, kill all the leakers. He said, what I want to do is I want to fucking kill all the leakers and I want to get the president's agenda on track so we can succeed for the American people, Scaramucci told Lizza. Now, do you think that when you speak in that fashion that it's not going to be printed? Well, yes, they'll take out your words here and there and beep it if it's on CNN, but your words are going there, Mr. Scaramucci. And you are doing the fandango. You're doing it at the behest of CNN. Now, why would you call in to CNN in the first place to speak to them? I don't get that. Okay, but he didn't just reserve his ill will for Reince Priebus. He also decided that it was great, it was time to throw Steve Bannon into the pile as well. Now, Steve Bannon is the White House chief strategist, and the person that we really don't hear much about anymore. So what was this today from Scaramucci? Well, to me, it sounded like a lot of aggrandizement, and it sounded like a lot of self-promoting. I kind of dislike getting into the minutia, but sometimes I just have to touch this now and then. I'm sorry, that's a bad phrase. That's a bad turn of phrase. Reince Priebus is the chief of staff to President Donald Trump. Stop. Should he have been the chief of staff to Donald Trump in the beginning, to begin with? And the answer, as far as I'm concerned, is no. Reince Priebus at the beginning was all against Donald Trump, and now he's working for Trump in the White House as chief of staff. Scaramucci is the proverbial bull in the china shop, and it's only Thursday. He's only been here not even a week yet, and this is the kind of stuff that you're getting. Well, now people are saying, oh yeah, go Scaramucci because he's going to find all the leakers. And he brought up Reince Priebus. Is it impossible that Reince Priebus is a leaker? I say not necessarily. He may well be a leaker. I didn't perceive that he was on the Trump train from the very beginning, but then again, neither was I from the beginning. And I came around when I decided, as I've said many times, Hillary Clinton, nope, I'm going to vote for anyone but Hillary, and I did. And I also voted for the fact that I thought that Donald Trump would make SCOTUS appointments in a much more even-handed and thoughtful fashion. Fingers crossed that he would appoint someone more to the right. And we got Neil Gorsuch, which was an excellent pick. So if Scaramucci is in to turn crap upside down in the Oval Office, well, it would certainly appear that he's doing that job. But, dude, you're going to have to moderate yourself. If this is your first week, that's fine. Go ahead and find all the leakers that you possibly can. And I'm not invested in Reince Priebus. If it turns out that Reince Priebus is leaking, fine. Kick his arse out too. The other thing that you need to do, Scaramucci, however, is make the delineation between the two types of leakers that we're seeing during President Trump's first year in office. You're seeing those people that are in the Oval Office or around that particular orbit who are leaking information from the Oval Office, from the West Wing, from the White House itself. That's one aspect. Then you've got leakers on the other side of the scale who should, in fact, do time. Those are the people from the intel communities, etc., the deep state, people in the State Department and all the various other State Departments, the other cabinet positions, etc., especially those in the alphabet agencies. Those people need to be prosecuted. They need to do joint time. They need to do prison time. Line one of those fucktards up and send them to some prison somewhere where they're wearing orange and not a nice coat and tie. I think you'll make an impression. So, going back to that particular article, now Scaramucci blamed Reince Priebus for leaking details to Chris Lizza of a Wednesday night dinner between Scaramucci, Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Fox News show host Sean Hannity, and former Fox News executive Bill Shine. And Scaramucci also said that it was Reince Priebus who leaked Scaramucci's financial disclosure form. All well and good. And if he did that, start ripping people away. But you're going to have to try to moderate some things out. This makes for great fodder for everyone else, despite the fact that CNN is tanking. Oh, MSNBC, their ratings are going up because of Rachel Maddow. And that's why I call this the dumpster fire. This is the dumpster fire edition. And Rachel Maddow is benefiting from the dumpster fire because every day people are migrating over to MSNBC to watch Rachel Maddow talk about what particular dumpster fire occurred today. Then enters Scaramucci. Why can't the FBI director, former FBI director, James Comey, why couldn't he have just taken a massive cup of shut the fuck up and do your job in the background? Same question for Scaramucci. You've just come in. Why can't you, sir, take a big cup of shut the fuck up, do your job in the background, and if you end up piling up body upon body upon body, oh, that's all well and good. But again, I'm afraid, like with many other things, it's about self-aggrandizement and self-promotion. You're talking about men and women, it doesn't matter, who clank when they walk, and egos the size of which most heads can't get into various rooms, which is why many of the rooms in the White House, their doorways have been expanded to accommodate these egos. That's a fact. Okay, that's fake news. So, Lizza said Scaramucci pressed him to know who leaked details of the dinner. Who leaked that to you? Scaramucci asked. What I'm going to do is I will eliminate everyone in the comms team and we'll start over. I asked these guys not to leak anything and they can't help themselves. Okay, well and good. You want to fire everyone if you get Trump's approval? You go straight ahead, Scaramucci. You fire every fucking one in the Oval Office. You start with Reince Priebus and you rip them out by the roots. I couldn't care less. Do it in the background. Stay out of the press. Just do your damn job. That's all I've got to say. So Scaramucci says, I've asked people not to leak things for a period of time and give me a honeymoon period. They won't do it. Scaramucci went on to say that he would not be defeated by leaks. The swamp will not defeat him, he said, talking of himself in the third person. That's just kind of Bob Dole-ish of him. They're trying to resist me, but it's not going to work. I've done nothing wrong on my financial disclosures, so they're going to have to go fuck themselves. dude, you're not on the SHR Media Network. That's why I have a radio show here, all right? And if you don't want to listen to the occasional F or S word, then, you're going to tune to someone or somewhere else. I was going to go off on this last Tuesday. I don't know. I have what I've called for years the BSTL. And I'm all full of acronyms. I come from a job that's nothing but acronyms. But I used to say that as a cop, various individual officers have their own individual BSTL. And that is translated as the bullshit tolerance level. It varies with persons and it varies with situations. And I have to say, I've got another about 2 minutes or so. I have had to say that my BSTL is being pushed these days by the White House, by the Oval Office, by this administration, by Trump, and by many of the other people in his circle. I'm a fairly tolerant individual, but I'm starting to lose my tolerance, and we'll get back to this. We'll get into this in a little bit more detail after the break. When the Senate pulled its shit this week, and now I'm hearing about Scaramucci, and coupled with the fact that I just got back from Freedom Fest. Now, if I've got time, I'm going to play an interview from Freedom Fest that I just absolutely cannot help but comment about, because I spoke to a gentleman named Ralph Benko, and he represents the Alinsky Center in New York. And when I say Alinsky, what do you think of first? Bingo. Thank you. That's Saul Alinsky. I just came back from Freedom Fest. I'm full of liberty and openness and dialogue. I had a great dialogue with this guy named Ralph Benko and another gentleman who was an attorney, Lawrence Kogan. Boy, was that illuminating. I have to write that post up first because I want to transcribe it. It was so incredible. But I get back from Freedom Fest, I've listened to all sorts of people talk about liberty, freedom, minimal government, and then I come back, I drive for 8-9 hours straight, I get a lovely little flat at my age. I get back, I'm full of this stuff, and at Tuesday's show, I have to tell you, the Tuesday Saloon show, I had a wonderful time at. But now, with all the rest of the crap that's happening this week, I have to tell you, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, my BSTL is starting to run out. I'm starting to run out of. I pat my pockets and whatnot, and these days I'm starting to find fewer and fewer fucks in my pocket with which to disseminate. Folks, you are listening to me, the Bloviating Zeppelin, on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. Now that we have ceased talking to the underground professor, you can go to YouTube, DudeTube. I almost called it DudeTube. Hey, DudeTube. I'm a dude, it's DudeTube. And you can watch me live right now and see that I am, in fact, wearing a professor, an underground professor cap, just like him. So I'll tell you what, let's go to a break, and please, please, please come back, and I've got more buttery political goodness, trust me when I tell you this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Catholic, stupid.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, I have to tell you, that stuff goes quick. The first hour, gone. GOA. Just like that. Absolutely astounding. I quite frankly didn't think it was going to go that quickly. Hey, I gotta say, look at all the people in chat. We have Whiskey Dale, who is a traitor to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Whiskey Dale, thank you ever so kindly for being here in chat. Bring all those reprobates from Hugh Hewitt over here. And I really appreciate you being here. Dave Milner, God bless you. It's good to see you here. Reactionaries is in the house. Mary Brockman. Every time you come here, it's like a little blessing comes down upon me and just goes, ding. Hello, BZ. It's a blessing. That's why, as a matter of fact, why am I pointing over here to the screen of the laptop that you guys can't see when I should be pointing right here at YouTube? Mary Brockman, thank you for being here. That is the reason why we have a chair for you in the saloon that's embroidered with your name, because you just have such a darn good heart. Like I said, White Mamba, one each, is here. Someday I'm going to have you back on the show and we can talk all things legal, because you are Tobes, the official attorney of the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. So again, thanks for being here in chat. And it's a semi-packed house. Really appreciate it. Now, we were talking about BZ's BSTL. And one of the things that Dave Milner said, you know what, I kind of almost really couldn't care less about what's going on with Trump or any of that stuff. As long as he keeps on track. Yes, okay? I have to say, yes, Dave, I'm with you on that one. Correct. All this stuff is extraneous, and it just gets in the way, and it tests. It tests people, and it gets in the way of stuff like this, for example. From FoxNews.com. Again, why you listen to me? Because this is the stuff that you're not hearing much of, and you won't hear it very much on the American media maggots. Russia probe. Democrats block key witness against shadowy firm Fusion GPS. What the hell? So what happened is this. Senate Democrats used a parliamentary maneuver yesterday to cut short a high-profile hearing where a key witness was set to testify in Russia's misdeeds and also raise fresh allegations against the company behind the infamous anti-Trump dossier. Stop. whose big damn fingers were in the middle of this anti-Trump dossier, which allegedly included information that was so over-the-top stupid, over-the-top ridiculous, that Donald Trump, when he was in Russia, he had golden showers in a hotel room on the bed, blah, blah. Everybody knows that Donald Trump is the quintessential germaphobe. That's such incredible bullshit. I can't, it just is. Despite that, who had their fingers in making sure that this information got all the way from Europe, from the UK, from a former UK spy to Fusion GPS, Fusion GPS, this dossier, John McCain. So John McCain, he has a tumor. I'm sorry to hear that. I appreciate that he served in Vietnam, and I appreciate that he flew for the Navy, and I appreciate that he survived the Hanoi Hilton. That said, John McCain did his very level best to make sure that this crap, that anything that he can dig up on Trump and can throw at the wall, that he brought, he gave this information, and it took a circuitous route. He sent an agent of his across the pond to the UK to meet with this particular spy master, former spy master, acquire the dossier. It ended up going over to Canada. They followed it over to Canada. Then it came back to John McCain's fluffy little hands, and he said it was his duty as an individual citizen to hand that dossier over to the FBI. And then it got leaked. Oh, I'm absolutely shocked that it got leaked to BuzzFeed. I didn't see that one coming at all. John McCain's hands were in that. Bill Browder, the CEO and co-founder of Hermitage Capital, was set to tell the Senate Judiciary Committee that the co-founder of the firm Fusion GPS was hired to conduct a smear campaign against him. Further, he planned to testify the campaign was orchestrated by Natalia Veselnitskaya. Okay, that's the Russian attorney chick that had that massive Trump Tower meeting with Donald Trump Jr. Hello, this all begins to dovetail. Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr., and then Paul Manafort last year in 2016. So Browder released written testimony, okay, ahead of this hearing, but his public remarks were delayed when Democrats invoked the 2-hour rule to protest Republican efforts to repeal Obamacare. So this doesn't have anything at all to do with it. This is all political. Okay, Obamacare, let's see. How can we piss in the cornflakes of the Republicans? I know. We'll make sure that they don't get this particular person. As a matter of fact, let's completely eliminate the possibility of this guy coming in and testifying in the first place. So that's what they did. The seldom used rule bars committees from meeting more than 2 hours after the full Senate begins a session. So they thought, all right, this is great. Let's do that. Let's invoke that particular rule. I don't know if the minority is intentionally trying to block testimony that may be critical of a firm behind the unverified Trump dossier, but I'll bet 2 bits that had Paul Manafort or Donald Trump Jr. appeared at today's hearing, it would not have been prematurely shut down. Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican, Iowa, said in this statement, the Democrat leadership is playing politics, plain and simple. Again, didn't hear much about that. Well, okay, what about this? This is another one. See, when you open doors as Democrats, don't be surprised when people walk in. And a door that you thought was going to be open into a slicing and dicing of the Republicans or the GOP, now it turns out that when you walk through that door, there's more than one room, Democrats. And it's turning out that these rooms lead to all sorts of different hallways. And you open the door, and now people are beginning to walk down these particular hallways. House Judiciary Committee officially approves effort to launch investigation of Comey and Lynch. Well, you heard that cut before the break of how many things, pieces of technology, the FBI did not get their hands on in order to cover Hillary Rodham Clinton. It was Loretta Lynch, if you recall, who told Comey, James Comey, former FBI director, to call his investigation a matter. And it was Lynch who said that, well, I'm going to try to do my level best to make sure that Hillary Clinton doesn't get prosecuted. The House Judiciary Committee has officially approved an effort to launch an investigation into former FBI Director James Comey's leaking activities and apparent mishandling of a federal investigation by former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Stop. I used to work for the FBI. At no time back then would it have even been considered remotely feasible that you would have an FBI director leak information to the press through a third party, which James Comey did. I am saying that because he did it he did it on FBI memos, FBI products. That's wrong, and in my opinion, that's illegal. But he did it very, very specifically, very plottingly, very politically. His goal was to make sure that there was, in fact, a special counsel appointed to investigate Donald Trump et al. About Russia. Because who would benefit? Cui bono? Well, let's see. That would be James Comey, who's already attached himself any number of ways to the Democrat administration. Now, he says he's completely impartial. Hello? Bullshit alert. I knew that he was rotten to the core when he made the first critical misstep was saying anything about any investigation. If you're an FBI director, assistant director, SSA, etc., you keep your mouth shut and you stay out of politics. As I said, you take a big cup of shut the fuck up and do your job. But no, James Comey had to politicize this, and now it's coming back to haunt him. He made terrible decisions to the point where I still speak to a lot of people who know what's going on in D.C., in the FBI building. And once he made that critical misstep with Hillary Clinton and made this incredibly egregious conclusion and essentially decided that he was going to usurp the power of the DOJ from Loretta Lynch, and Loretta Lynch threw up her arms and said, you know what, I'm perfectly good with you doing that because that means that's another piece of crap I'm not going to step into. It was all politicized. All of it was politicized. And it all dovetails, and it's all coming back. The new investigative effort, authorized by the passage of the amendment in the Judiciary Committee, a 16-13 vote along partisan lines, but it worked, digs deep, requesting documents and information related to Comey's leaks of conversations he had with President Donald Trump before Trump fired him. According to the Washington Post, Democrats on the committee were infuriated. Republicans pressed forward with the probe. Oh, terrible! But what are we finding out? We're finding out consistently more and more because the Democrats themselves opened these doors, and shock of shocks, people are walking through. Now they're absolutely gobsmacked that this kind of stuff is happening. This is the most astonishing moment I've ever experienced in the Judiciary Committee, said Democrat Representative Steve Cohen of Tennessee, to take a question about the firing of James Comey and turn it into a question about Hillary Clinton. The chairman has left the room. Justice has left this room. Common sense has left this room. A lot of stuff has left this room and maybe never entered it. Who opened that door? I sound like an owl. Who? I know who. The amendment was offered by Representatives Matt Gaetz of Florida, Republican, Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, Andy Biggs, Republican Arizona, and Mike Johnson, Republican Louisiana. It passed Wednesday evening last night, authorizing the opening of the Judiciary Committee probe. It remains to be seen if subjects of the investigation will cooperate, and if they do not cooperate, it remains to be seen if the committee will use its broad subpoena power to compel document production and testimony. It's a step in the right direction. But what do I say? What does BC say? BC says this, but wait, there's more. Didn't hear about this either, I'll wager. This is from AmericanLookout.com. I find all sorts of good things for you guys, and for myself too. FBI lawyer selected by Comey under investigation for leaking classified information. No, really, again, color me just smacked. I'm smacked. A bombshell report was released that indicates that an FBI lawyer who was selected to the position by former FBI Director James Comey in 2014 is under investigation for leaking classified information to the media. And again, from Circa News. Circa News, they've got their finger on a lot of interesting things. If you don't read Circa, you should now and then. So Circa News said, FBI General Counsel James Baker is purportedly under a Department of Justice criminal investigation for allegedly leaking classified national security information to the media, according to multiple government officials close to the probe who spoke with Circa on the condition of anonymity. Speaking of anonymity, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, New York Times, etc. Those are all the people who think that it's great to publish any article that they wish with one source. That's all they need, one source. And, oh, that's right, that source is Anonymous. 9/10 of the time. FBI spokeswoman Carol Cratty said the Bureau would not comment on Baker and would not confirm or deny any investigation. Maybe this is the guy that's been leaking to the Times, to the Post, all throughout the fruited plain. Maybe we're starting to get to some of the people who have been doing precisely this. This comes as Department of Justice Attorney General Jeff Sessions said he would soon be making an announcement regarding the progress of leak investigations. A DOJ official declined to comment on Circa's inquiry into Baker, but did say the planned announcement by Sessions is part of the overall stepped-up efforts on leak investigations. Kind of like Scaramucci. Will you do the fandango? 3 sources with knowledge of the apparent investigation told Circa that Baker is the top suspect in an ongoing leak investigation, but Circa has not been able to confirm the details of what national security information or material was allegedly leaked. A federal law enforcement official with knowledge of ongoing internal investigations in the Bureau told Circa, quote, the Bureau is scouring for leakers, and there's been a lot of investigations, unquote. Back in the day, you didn't do this. And again, when the FBI attempts to tell me, now let me separate this out. I should be clear. When I'm speaking about the FBI in this fashion, I'm speaking generally about the admin. Because as I've said before, the line level agents, the IAs, the investigative assistants who are civilians, and all of those people in all the bullpens throughout all of the FBI offices across the United States, they're good damn people. They're wonderful people. They want to do the job, and they want to do it well. And they do. Where the turd drops into the punch bowl and the cat litter gets scattered across the top is from the middle management on up. Not just in the FBI, but in most other organizations. when it comes to the FBI, it's sad to say, I mostly can't trust them very much anymore. Because the information is hoarded, it's kept, and then spun. And James Comey has done more disservice to the FBI than almost anyone I can think of in the past 20, 30 years or more, because he has proven himself to be a political hack. Stop. McCabe, clearly a Democrat-favoring individual, $700,000 involved with McCabe's wife, with the governor of Virginia. And in that particular consideration, again, Comey says, you know what, I don't find any conflict of interest there whatsoever. Again, in a continuing series of piss-poor crap decisions, politicized decisions by James Comey. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. I like Tucker Carlson. He had a great interview. It was a little bit too late for me to do it. I might do it next week, where he was speaking to Jeff Sessions. I don't think I'm really going to get too much into the whole Jeff Sessions thing with involving President Trump, but to say this. I agree with Trump in terms of Jeff Sessions. He should have told the president, because he's not a dummy, and he had, I believe, every intent to recuse himself from the beginning of this year, from the Russian probe. Fine. You should have been honest and upfront with Trump. That said, Trump's statements excoriating Sessions, I don't need that crap. But there's more. Now, I spoke about Tucker Carlson. He's interviewing Mark Stein here, if I'm not mistaken, about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And I told you about this situation last Tuesday. This story is starting to get traction, and I think Tucker Carlson makes a pretty damn good summary of what's happening with this IT specialist who just recently got arrested trying to flee the United States. You can't write this. Honest to God, you can't write this stuff.
Well, a Pakistani national who was also a longtime aide to the former chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, has been arrested after trying to flee this country. Imran Awan has been charged with felony bank fraud. Awan had been under investigation for months. He was banned from the House computer system in February for posing a security risk. And yet, for some reason, Wasserman Schultz kept him on her payroll until just yesterday. Not only that, but she actively tried to sabotage the investigation into Awan. She threatened Capitol Police after they seized a laptop. What is going on here? Mark Stein has been following this story carefully. He's an author and columnist, and he joins us tonight.
You remember I told you about that last Tuesday? Debbie Wasserman Schultz threatened the police chief of the D.C. Metro about that particular laptop. It's all over the internet. It's all over YouTube.
What is this about, Mark?
Well, it's about everything that the Democrats and the media have spent months trying to prove that the Russia investigation, so-called, is about. Everything they've looked for and failed to find in the Russia investigation is, in fact, going on under their noses in this particular story.
Again, opening doors that, in retrospect, in hindsight, they're going to wish that they'd completely avoided whatsoever. Who? The Democrats.
We have computer interference. We have, as you said, a powerful political figure attempting to interfere with a federal investigation, as Debbie Wasserman Schultz did when she threatened the head of the Capitol Police. We have actual criminal elements. This guy...
My mistake, I have to say it up front. It was the Capitol Police she threatened, not D.C. Metro.
Was arrested trying to flee the country. We have interference from foreign politicians. These guys were given $100,000 by a prominent Iraqi politician. In other words, everything that they have been looking for in the Russia investigation and failed to find is actually staring them in the face with this mysterious guy. And that's actually before the more obvious problems with the story, which is how does one guy from Pakistan, from Lahore, his wife, their two brothers, and at least one of their sisters-in-law end up providing IT services for dozens of Democrat powerful figures.
Stop. Democrat, specifically partisan. No Republicans in there, no Republicans mentioned, just Democrats. Oh, crap. Gotta go back. Uno momento.
Well, what is going on here? Mark Stein
have spent months trying to prove that the Russia investigation, so-called, is about everything they've looked.
I hate it when you push the wrong button, especially on YouTube.
For and failed to find in the Russia investigation is in fact going on under their noses in this particular story. We have computer interference. We have, as you said, a powerful political figure attempting to interfere with a federal investigation, as Debbie Wasserman Schultz did when she threatened the head of the Capitol Police. We have actual criminal elements. This guy was arrested trying to flee the country. We have interference from foreign politicians. These guys were given $100,000 by a prominent Iraqi politician. In other words, everything that they have been looking for in the Russia investigation and failed to find is actually staring them in the face with this mysterious guy. And that's actually before the more obvious problems with the story, which is how does one guy from Pakistan, from Lahore, his wife, their two brothers, and at least one of their sisters-in-law end up providing IT services for dozens of Democrat powerful figures. That in itself is actually pretty unusual.
Well, it is. It's an odd story from start to finish, and maybe weirdest is even after this guy was under a public cloud, even after Debbie Wasserman Schultz had threatened, apparently, the Capitol Police looking into it.
And after he stole equipment.
And this is a news story. He worked for her until yesterday? Why would she do that?
What? This guy that was arrested, until his arrest and probably thereafter, he was still being paid by the Democrats.
Well, he was arrested at Dulles Airport on Monday night. She terminated his employment, which was, by the way, at the expense of you and I and every other taxpayer, on Tuesday. Most of the other Democrat congressmen for whom this family work, they got rid of this family, both the wife and the brother-in-law and so on, back at the end of February, beginning of March. Occam's razor would suggest that the reason that she kept him on was that because she was additionally head of the DNC, he had too much on her. That's the...
Stop. Occam's razor basically says the most obvious thing is probably the truth. And you've likely heard Occam's razor quantified like that before. The simplest thing is the truth. Why were they going after him? Why was he still on the payroll? Why would he try to flee the country? He's being paid 6 figures by Wasserman Schultz. 6 figures to do that job, not just for her, but other Democrats. So you've got it going well. Why take off?
The basic explanation, he knew her iPad password, which means, by the way, you no longer need to worry about whether Vladimir Putin gave all the DNC emails to the WikiLeaks guy at the Colombian embassy or whatever it is in London. Never mind that. The fella arrested at Dulles Airport trying to flee back to Lahore actually had Debbie Wasserman Schultz's password, and there's so much collusion going on here that Debbie actually colluded with the guy fleeing to Lahore by giving him the password herself.
You again. You can't write this stuff, can you? We're going to go to a break. Final segment coming up. Please stay tuned. Thanks for being in chat. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for listening to podcast on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Mim from Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds. Join your friends from SHR Media at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 19th through the 22nd for 3 amazing days of liberty-oriented discussion, investment advice, and the Anthem Film Festival. It's our big 10th anniversary, featuring keynote speaker William Shatner and Freedom Fest favorites, including Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Lee Edwards, David Boaz, Doug Casey, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Grover Norquist, Peter Schiff, and many more. Don't miss out. Register at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all-caps code SHR Media.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Final segment. 2 hours has gone, boom, like that. Incredibly zippamento. That's Spanish for zippy, in case you didn't know. My thanks again to the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, for having been on the first segment, the first half hour of the show tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that was in chat tonight. And I really appreciate your appearance consistently, specifically Mike, Whiskey Dave, Whiskey Dale, Dave Milner, White Mamba, Mary Brockman. It's been fine and fantastic and fabuloso. That's an official word, fabuloso, to see you guys consistently in a chat. And when you come here, I have to say that I really appreciate the loyalty. It does not go unnoticed and unappreciated. We were speaking to Tucker Carlson. We were listening to Tucker Carlson and Mark Stein talk about the Debbie Wasserman Schultz issue and her IT specialist who was in the process of attempting to hoof it for whatever strange and funny reason back to Lahore, Pakistan, because he apparently has goods on the Democrats and perhaps just a bit of Debbie Wasserman Schultz herself.
So if in his ever-expanding investigation, Bob Mueller would like something else to set his 37 Hillary donors to work on, they can wrap this thing up in the next 48 hours, because it's all staring them in the face.
Well, here's we referenced earlier the threats that she made against Capitol Police in this, and that's a pretty strong thing to say about somebody. I think we actually have tape of this, in case anyone doubts it. Here's Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Listen to
My understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way, and should expect that there would be consequences.
Ooh,
there will be consequences. You're just a fat little dumpy police chief. I am a goddess. Don't fuck with me, is exactly what she meant.
Will be consequences, says the member of Congress to the person who in effect works for her.
Yeah, and that's a powerful House committee member threatening law enforcement, saying if you know what's good for you, you're going to return what she calls my laptop, which is in effect a laptop that this guy, the guy who's got borrowing money from Iraqi politicians and whatnot, is in the control and under the supervision of the guy who was arrested. And she's threatening. So again, this isn't like Trump saying obliquely to Jim Comey, can you assure me that my hopes that I will always have your loyalty will be. It's nothing to do with anything as oblique as hope and loyalty. She's saying,
yes, this is a threat made by a public official to a law enforcement official in public, immured on video on YouTube now and forever. This isn't innuendo. This isn't hinting. This is right there. You just heard it. You can hear it again. You can watch it going to YouTube. It just gets better.
Give me this piece of evidence in a criminal investigation, or you guys are going to get it. And
she's not a master of the oblique. She's pretty explicit.
And what's interesting is this guy, his wife, the brothers-in-law, the brothers and the sister-in-law, they've made $5 million, it's estimated, from providing, because the Democrats, as we know, require highly specialized computer services.
Unbelievable.
$5 million to this guy and his friends and family. $5 million. Well, the Russians hacked the DNC. That's what everyone is saying. What everyone is forgetting is apparently the Russians attempted to hack the GOP. The major difference is that evidently the GOP took computer security just a bit more seriously.
Have to be able to go to Home Depot, buy the biggest hammer, and that costs money. These guys got $5 million, and they're still borrowing money from Iraqi politicians.
We're going to get the details in the hearings. Mark, great to see you tonight.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
That's why I love Tucker Carlson. That's why I love playing things from Tucker Carlson. He hones in. If you don't watch him, I DVR him every night. Whether I see it, I'm still about 5 or 6 ones behind. Oh, boy. And then sometimes something walks up to you that's as bizarre as you could possibly think. And someone sits down and says, you know, I have a story to tell. Would you like to hear it? And that happened to me over at Freedom Fest. And I told you about it. I gave you a little bit of a hint about this earlier. There was a gentleman by the name of Ralph Benko, B-E-N-K-O. He is a member. He's sitting on the board of director, if I'm not mistaken. He'll tell you here in this cut. From the Alinsky Center. What do we know about Saul Alinsky? Rules for Radicals. Here's Ralph Benko sitting down and talking to me and saying, you know what? Saul Alinsky wasn't a leftist. He was an incredible conservative. I'm not kidding. Listen.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin here at Freedom Fest 2017 at the Paris Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is the 10th anniversary of the Freedom Fest. Thank you for listening. We have someone who just happened to walk by the booth, and he had an interesting story. His name is Ralph Benko, and when he first mentioned the name Saul Alinsky, claws and fangs grew out of me immediately until I realized that perhaps he has a story. Now, Mr. Benko is from the Alinsky Center, and you can find that at the AlinskyCenter.org. But by the way, I'm not kidding. When he said that his name didn't mean anything to me at the time, but when he said that he was representing the Alinsky Center, and I said, oh, Saul Alinsky? And he said, yes. I almost told him to go the hell away. That would have been wrong because I would have missed this intriguing story. Listen, I could say this as it's a story, or I can say it as it's spin. Now, I wanted to hear what he said. I'd like your opinion when you hear all of this. Have a story that I think people perhaps may want to hear, despite the fact that Saul Alinsky carries baggage, if you get my drift. So, Ralph, tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Ralph Benko. I'm the president of the Alinsky Center, Our chairman is David Alinsky. He is the son of Saul Alinsky, and he is a progressive. I happen to be the second most conservative man in the world, according to a columnist by Washington Post magazine.
Okay, did you find yourself doubting that when you just heard it? Oh, all the bells and claxons were clanging in the wheelhouse of BZ.
Mostly for my advocacy of the gold standard, but I was attacked by Newsweek last week for my attacks on the Politico media complex, far more sinister than the military-industrial complex. So I'm a good, solid right-winger. And when David asked me to be the president of the Alinsky Center, and by the way, for the record, it's alinskycenter.com.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No not .org, just alinskycenter.com.
My mistake. Let me correct that right now, because when I
Thank
post
you.
this, that's important.
Right.
Got it.
And I came across Rules for Radicals about 15 or 20 years ago, and I was flabbergasted because there was nothing left-wing about it. It turns out, and it was not dedicated to...
Okay, you heard that. Nothing left-wing about Rules for Radicals. You know, when you're doing an interview, you don't want to stop the person that's interviewing, that you're interviewing. You want them to tell their story. That's what a good interviewer does. I was kind. I was considerate. I get to stop the story now for interjections.
Lucifer. There's a witty...
My first thought...
Yes. It's dedicated to Irene. You could look on the dedication page where it says, to Irene. And on the epigrams page, there's a quote from Rabbi Hillel, where there are no men, be thou a man. There's a quote from Thomas Paine, who I'm a great fan of. Let them call me rebel. It does not concern me. I would rather suffer the misery of devils than to make a whore of my soul. I hope the FCC doesn't come down on us for this.
Well, tell you what, this is the brilliance of the SHR Media Network, is the fact that we're not broadcasting on FCC-controlled airwaves, therefore we can say any damn thing we wish.
This is conservative media done right.
That's right, as opposed to maybe medium rare. We have it done right, all the time, right here. Now, when you say Saul Alinsky, like I said, knives, fangs, claws grow out because I don't...
There was a third epigram in which he said, at least we forget an over-the-shoulder shout-out to the first radical. And by the way, radical, he meant somebody going to the root of getting things done, not hooligan. Lucifer.
Really? Ralph? Perhaps that was then. There is always now. There is always Berkeley. There are always college campuses.
Who carved out his own empire.
Okay.
Let me just briefly say, according to the founders of Protestantism, John Calvin and Martin Luther, Lucifer was not Satan. And anyone who said, according to Calvin and Luther, anybody who conflates Lucifer and Satan is a biblical moron. Number two, Saul, like me, was a Jew. He was not an atheist. He was a genially agnostic Jew. And in Jewish theology, Satan was the skeptical angel at God's court.
Agnostic Jew. Note that.
He was not the devil. Okay? And number three, Saul had a wicked sense of humor.
I'm an agnostic Christian. What?
And he loved to trigger people, and he knew he would, and he did.
Well, and here's the deal. That's why you're here right now, because when you said the words Saul Alinsky, the name Saul Alinsky, that was a trigger for me.
Yes.
But
yes.
The beautiful thing about Freedom Fest and the beautiful thing about SHR is you speak obviously very well, obviously well educated. It's all about the First Amendment, and it's all about listening to as many views as possible,
yes.
Which is why I thought this would be, Ralph, that you would be a great interview.
Thank you. Well, I'm sorry that David has flown back to Boston. Because he'd have been an even greater interview. But let me just say, the people who accuse Saul Alinsky of being a Marxist, Saul Alinsky worked with Cardinal Montini of Milan, who later went on to become Pope Paul VI, which is hardly anybody's idea of a left-winger, to break the...
Hey, Alaskan, in chat, welcome to you. Good to see you here. Mike, take care.
The Italian Communist Party. which was gaining inroads in northern Italy. And Cardinal Montini called Saul Alinsky in to coach him on how to defeat the Italian Communist Party without playing into the hands of the reactionary. Just a fact.
So tell me, how is it that reactionary? Wasn't he in chat today? He sure as hell was. And that Saul Alinsky got, for lack of a better word, pigeonholed into essentially the devil incarnate on the left. Admired resoundingly by Barack Hussein Obama, etc., etc., etc.
Well,
and perhaps even Cloward Piven. Don't know about that.
I don't think Saul ever heard of Cloward or Piven.
I don't think so either.
I don't think
they were a little after his time, I think.
Saul died in 1972. He was, active during the 1930s, fighting the fascists, and during the 1940s, repelling the. He was investigated by J. Edgar Hoover's FBI on false allegations that he was he had communist sympathies, and they exonerated him. And so, J. Edgar was no patsy when it came to the commies. So he was totally exonerated by Hoover's FBI. He never joined the Communist Party. He considered them to be a bunch of humorless dorks, and he also said, I never joined any organization, including my own. He was a very independent thinker. And by the way, Barack Obama never met Saul Alinsky. Barack Obama was 11.
Oh, no, I'm sure he didn't, but...
in Honolulu.
Yeah. But he was a great admirer of the work of Saul Alinsky and used his rules for radicals for community organizing. The things I could tell you. By the way, if you haven't picked up a copy of Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, I would recommend it. You can go on the web and you can Google or your favorite search engine. You can find out tons of information about Saul Alinsky and what specifically those rules are. But they are used in very specific fashions for community organizers on numerous levels.
When he died. But I talked to Arnie Graff, who is Saul's successor as the head, one of his successors as the head of the Industrial Area Foundations, who did mentor young Barack Obama for about a week. And Barack Obama said, I don't want to have anything to do with this. Okay? Saul Alinsky's beauty is that the people need to direct the government rather than being minions of the government. He was a classical liberal, a pure classical liberal in the tradition of John Locke and Adam Smith. And by the way, he loved capitalism, and he carried a concealed handgun due to death threats from the KKK.
Now that I wouldn't doubt, and I do believe that in the slightest. So tell me, Ralph,
Yes,
I got
okay.
to know. How or why, then, in your opinion, did he become so inexorably linked to far left elements?
Okay, there were two factors so far as I can tell, and I've read his biography. I know his family and whatever. Okay, the first thing is what I call the sombrero effect.
All right.
Do you know how the left accuses us, all the rest of us, of cultural appropriation when we do things like...
See, this is very interesting. This is Ralph pushing the left away. But I'm getting to a point, and I think you're going to see it.
Like wearing a sombrero?
Yes.
The left has culturally appropriated the name and reputation of Saul Alinsky, who was a classical liberal, which is the fountainhead of libertarianism. Mm-hmm. The left grabbed it and took it and ran with his prestige. That was the first thing. The second thing is the right is mostly inhabited by a bunch of people with ADD. Attention deficit disorder.
He's right about that.
So instead of reading Rules for Radicals, they listened to what the left said about Rules for Radicals, and they took it as gospel. And people like Dinesh D'Souza, who I debated here yesterday, people like Ben Carson, people like Newt Gingrich, right-wingers, they have fallen for the left's big lie that Saul Alinsky was a left-winger. And and by the way, Saul Alinsky was a powerful, hard-hitting guy who was all about taking power. But he wasn't about the government taking the people's power. He was about the people taking the power back from the big guys, big government, big crony business, whoever. Saul said in his final interview, which was published in Playboy, what really gets me is seeing the little guy get kicked around. So he spent his whole life working with the little guy, not telling him what to do, telling him how to do it.
That's absolutely accurate. That's very, very accurate. But it gets to be, it's a system. And I'm going to make the systemic point here in the not too terribly distant future.
If you're getting kicked around by the big guys, let me show you how you can claim your own power, stand in your own dignity, stand up for yourself, and solve your own problems.
But wait, didn't Ralph say that he's pro-corporation? Yes, he did. Now, perhaps, are we asking that in Ralph's mind it's all about the size of the corporation? Is it really?
I will not solve your problems for you. There's no dignity in that.
You know, you mentioned that you had a debate, I think you said, with Dinesh D'Souza.
Yes.
I'm just kind of curious off the cuff. How did he take your position? Was he just adamantly opposed?
Yes. He started with a proposition that Saul Alinsky is a very bad guy, and that he infected the Democratic Party with his badness, and that he's responsible for how bad the Democratic Party is. You know, he says, well, Hillary Clinton, was his protege. No, Hillary Clinton wrote her master's thesis on Saul Alinsky.
That's accurate. That's absolutely accurate. I know that for a fact.
Him 2 or 3 times, admired him, and walked away from his job offer and walked away from community organizing. It's right there in the thesis. I wrote 2 articles about it in Forbes.com, where I'm a weekly political columnist.
Okay, good to know.
Called the Secret Hillary Clinton, parts 1 and 2. Okay, and she said, Alinsky is great, but it's not replicable. He's just a genius. Okay, in order to bring about social justice, it's not practical for us to organize people to
note the phrase, please, social justice.
Stand up for themselves in the community and put pressure on the government. I'm going into the government. I'm taking power and using central command and control. I will make your lives better for you. So she rejected Alinsky. Barack Obama told Arnie Graff, Alinsky's successor, no, I don't want to become a community organizer.
Mamba, you make a great point in chat. Yes, it is about ADD, and yes, the leftists have the corner on that market.
I want to go into the system. I want to become a powerful judge or a lawyer, and I want to exercise power to make people's lives better. This is antithetical to Alinsky, and and Dinesh just didn't get it. I said, you can't hang these guys around Alinsky's neck. They repudiated Alinsky. They enjoyed him. They learned from him, as we should, because Alinsky provides 13 tactical rules, 12 of which, by the way, Donald Trump used in the presidential campaign, that are enormously powerful for us to take our power back and to exercise it with ethics and dignity.
Now you know where I'm going to go next. Listen. Okay, folks, we're talking to Ralph Benko of the Alinsky Center. Ralph, so tell me, how is it the Alinsky Center and yourself, how do you merge with politics? In other words, what's your course, what's your focus at this point?
Alinsky's 4th rule, his rules are beautiful, okay? His 4th rule is particularly beautiful. Hold your enemy up to his own book of rules. Because he can no more live up to his own book of rules than the Christians can live up to the Bible. Okay? He had a great wicked sense of humor. So the point is, from my perspective, as a classical liberal Republican, small L, small r, neither the left nor the right are living up to their book of rules.
Okay.
And my goal in taking on the presidency of the Alinsky Center, which, by the way, is a very tiny little body, okay, not particularly influential yet, but my personal goal is to hold both the left and the right up to their own book of rules. For example, justice is a great conservative value, but the right has allowed the left to make a pretense that they are for justice, and we...
Perfect. That's spot fucking on.
Almost never talk about it. Justice is a precious conservative value, and we should be fighting for justice loudly and proudly, and we're not.
Could you say, and you obviously you're going to correct me if I'm wrong.
Obviously.
Could you say that Alinsky's rules for radicals, could you condense it down to say that it's a system that could be applied to any number of people and organizations focused on a common goal?
That's very well said, and let me just make one little tweak.
Okay, he acknowledges that, yes, rules for radicals, and this is my point. This is why I'm playing this tonight. I may not even have time to play the rest of it. I wanted to turn this back around on him so that he attempted, at least obliquely, but he admitted overtly, it's a system. It's a system that can be utilized for anyone for any reason. Now, if you read the 13 rules for radicals, you can find a lot of background in that in propaganda, in Joseph Goebbels. It's a system, boys and girls, that can be used to defeat an enemy, and it's a system that can be utilized by damn near anyone. He just hit upon it. I attempted to expand it, and I find it's absolutely true. He might be completely correct. It's a system that has been used by people on the left, but are people on the right available? Do they have the wherewithal, the expansive mind to look at that book and say, isn't it about time that we use the tactics of the left and the tactics of Saul Alinsky against their very selves? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I have to say thanks immensely for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon here on the SHR Media Network. You want to contact me, you'll find me on Twitter at bzepp and on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. My original music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at reverbnation.com. Excuse me. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going.
So will you please say hello?
Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team. I'll be seeing you in less than an hour, folks. And thank you ever so kindly for listening live. Thanks to the Underground Professor. Thank you for being involved in the chat room. Thanks for listening in podcast. And sorry if it's too damn late for you. I say to you one and all, thanks for listening. God bless. Take care. You be safe. See you next Tuesday. What's next Tuesday? My God, August 1st.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.